Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tap Into Your Creativity. I'm so excited for today. We have part two with an incredible artist, dear friend of mine, Mark Eanes. He's going to join us any minute, I hope, all the way from Benicia, California. And there he is actually. So let's just wait for him to request to go live with me. And I'm going to bring him in for a treat today. Like last time, he is an incredible human being, and here he is. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm so excited that we're doing this part two because now not only did I know you before, but now I know you in a whole different light because you're my teacher, my professor, my mentor, and we have so much to talk about today. So I can't wait to dive in. And so welcome to Tap Into Your Creativity. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sandra.
So Mark, for people that didn't see our part one, why don't you bring us back a little bit on who you are, where do you work, and a little bit of your past.
Okay, I'll try to consolidate 50 years into 5 minutes. How's that?
That doesn't need to be 5 minutes. We have a little more than 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm years, Sandra, because that's when I started studying art right out of high school. So at 18, I left the East Coast, came out here to the Bay Area, and started my studies as a young painter. And I was at a junior college nearby here for a couple of years. Then I went down to UC Santa Barbara in 73 and 74, so I'm dating myself here. And yes, I studied as a painter. And as a junior and a senior undergraduate, I was really taken by European painting. I had instructors who gave me a very traditional, even classical, rigorous training. We did studies of other painters. I did studies after Cezanne and other great painters. And the point of the story is that when I graduated in 74, I came up to San Francisco, thought I would make it as an artist, which was a pipe dream. And I ended up instead working at a hotel in downtown San Francisco. Now I say this because for 2 years I saved my money from 74 to 76. What I wanted to do, Sandra, was, this is a very important story, was I wanted to go to Europe and travel for a great deal of time and see the great paintings that I had studied only in books and slides. And I did that.
You did? You were able to save that money?
So in 76, you got to keep in mind, it was easier than a dollar went a lot further. So in 76, I had $3,000 to my name. I quit my job and I traveled in Europe for 4.5 months on that money. I had a sketchbook, a camera, and that was it. There were no cell phones at that time, obviously. And my itinerary were all the museums throughout Europe that I wanted to go visit. That was a profound trip.
Did you do this on your own, Mark, or did you have a partner with you?
Well, I had a partner with me for the first, it's a longer story, which I won't go into the weeds with you, but I did have a partner that was there for the first week or two in Paris, and then we separated because she was with her mom and Nona going down to Italy. She's Italian descent. And then we reconnected later on, but much of that trip was on my own. When I came back, I had about $20 in my pocket from that trip.
From the 3,000, it came to 20?
But seriously, I had about $20, $25 left. I had my apartment still, and I went back to the hotel. They took me back in for another brief period of time so I could get back on my feet. Now, fast forward, I did my graduate work at Mills College in Oakland from 84 to 87. But in 2013, Sandra, I decided to do that trip again. And I used the same backpack. I had a camera and a sketchbook. And in 2013, I traveled for about 4 months, revisiting certain places, but also going to new places. So I guess the point of this story is that I feel that for myself, travel is really important to see other people and cultures, and but also the stimulus of the visuals and culture, history. So it's been a big, really important part of my development as an artist and my life as a human being. And
What do you think of going back in 2013 and looking at some of the same things that you saw, and having all those years in between? Did you think differently in 2013 than in 76?
well,
Was it, did you have an aha moment?
well, the short answer would be yes, it was different because, I was 25 or 24 the first time, and in 2013 I was much, much older, and so you obviously bring another life's experience to the moment. But I was no less excited and no less in awe of what I was seeing and doing. I have to share a really brief story which kind of talks about the art process too, and it just popped up in my head. There was a moment in 2013 where I was at a cafe having coffee, and there was a Swiss woman nearby, and we started chatting, and she asked me how my day was, etc. Well, I told her that at some point I like to just kind of amble throughout the streets, not knowing where I am, because eventually I find my way back. I don't mind getting lost. That's the point that I was telling her, that I got lost and ended up in circles, but that was part of the experience. And she said to me, I really wish I knew how to get lost. I'm so fearful of making the wrong turn and not being able to find my way back. I say this because I find in that little anecdote the key to painting. Because I'm not afraid. I understand that getting lost and not knowing where I'm going is really essential to the creative process. But for many people, it's very fearful not to be in control, to make a wrong move, a left turn, or get lost and not find their way back. And that just popped up in my head, but it feels like...
It's so true, because I think like getting out of your comfort zone and not knowing usually what the end result will be is where those aha moments come in, and where you learn the most, and when you're most vulnerable, it's where you grow the most.
Yeah. I want to get a t-shirt and it says "Dare to Fail," because that's what we need to be willing to do.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I love that.
So just to finish the story then, there's so much to say, but I wanted to mention those 2 travel trips. Also in 2013, I met Marjia, fell in love, and got married. So that had a special moment, but that's a whole much bigger story for you and me another time.
Yes.
So I've been here in Benicia, the North Bay of the Bay Area, for over 25, 26 years. The first 10 years out of graduate school, I taught part-time at a variety of colleges and art institutes: San Francisco State University, some junior college, and College of Arts and Crafts at the time. For the last 20 years, I've been full-time at the California College of the Arts, teaching primarily drawing and painting classes, everything from anatomy to color and design. So
And
we've been
when
conducting...
did you make go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for some years, we've been conducting, Marjia and I have been conducting color and design workshops here in our studio. We were able to have 7 artists come periodically and work with us, which is fantastic. And then when COVID came around, I had to teach online at the college for about 6 weeks, got used to it, and Marjia and I decided we would start teaching the color and design courses online. That took off. And then we both realized, or it was really Marjia's vision. She said, you know what? We could make 2 really incredible college level courses accessible to artists online that they can have forever. And you could bring your experience as a college professor to these courses, and it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of work, but it could really be worthwhile on a lot of levels. So that's when we created the Language of Color, which took us about 3 to 4 months, and then follow up was the language of design, which took us about 5 months. We chose not to try to do a workshop, Sandra, on color and design, a course that is, because there's just too much. So that's why we call them the language of. There's a lot of vocabulary, obviously, in both realms. But as a teacher, it occurred to me that two main areas that are problematic and challenging for the artist, one is color, and one is understanding good design and composition. So that's why we chose to do those two courses.
And we'll dig in a little more in a little bit.
Sure.
But I just want you to tell us a little bit about your artwork. Were you able to create your own artwork at the same time as you are now an assistant professor at college? Like, how do you carve your time? How do you market your own artwork? How does that piece help you to become this whole person that you are now?
The first 10 years of me teaching, I was teaching part-time, and I just really was struggling, to be quite honest, to make the balance between teaching and doing my own artwork. I always have done my own work, Sandra, but in those 10 years, it was a juggling act in terms of time available to be in my studio. Because I was teaching part-time at sometimes more than one place during the semester, so I was on the road a lot, quite frankly. And it was challenging, to be quite honest, it was challenging. Over the last 20 years, fortunately, I was able to achieve full-time, and my schedule was much lighter at the college, much lighter, and that provides me with a lot of time to be in the studio. So I feel really fortunate. I'm also fortunate because I actually love to teach. So, there's that. It's not a chore or even a job. It's a passion. It's a calling. So that does give me a lot of time for my own work. In terms of having shows and exhibiting the work and selling the work, that's a whole other story. I've had lots of shows in lots of galleries. I've sold plenty of work over the years. But to be quite honest, that's a hat, the hat that one wears to market oneself, the hat that one wears to promote oneself and to, do it on a regular full-time basis. That's a challenging hat to wear for most artists, myself included. And so I do make effort to get the work out there. I do have representation, and I do make effort to sell the work, but it's not my primary focus, to be quite honest. I could have been much more, assertive in marketing myself, but it's not who I am. And so I do it to the best degree I know how. I would not be the best advice person to people how to market your work. I've done plenty of it. Part of it I find distasteful. I'll just go on record as saying that. Because there's a lot of weirdness there's a lot of weirdness that goes with it. But I will say this. Be prepared to be disappointed over and over and over again. Be prepared to be rejected over and over and over again. Be prepared to believe in yourself and your work and know that it's solid and it's worth being out there. And do realize, and I know this is a fact, that it's important to get the work out there. Not just for monetary exchange. Yes, that's great. Write me a check. I'm happy. That's really wonderful. But I think the prize, keeping the eyes on the prize, is to get the work out there for someone to enjoy day after day after day. And their children will enjoy it, and their grandchildren hopefully will enjoy it. The work is meant to be seen. Just like a book is meant to be read, just like music is meant to be heard, just like theater is meant to be watched, the visual arts are meant to be looked at over and over again and enjoyed. And for that reason, I do make effort to get the work out there. I'm happy to give away work sometimes, to trade work sometimes, to sell it for much less than I think it's worth, et cetera, because that, to me, is the ultimate prize, to get the work out there for people to enjoy.
I love that so much. And thank you for saying those words, because I think we lose sight of the big price. And what is the big price, right? I think it's different for each one of us. And you just gave us a beautiful perspective. And, you know, if you love what you do, put it out there. Put it out there. And it will come back somehow, you know, like you said, within your family, within your friends, within your community. It's so important to have that perspective and not have the dollar amount every time you put something out there. Because I think you lose yourself, you lose the honesty of your painting. Um, it's just important to have that visualization of, I love what I'm doing. I would love to share it. And that's it, you know?
Yeah,
So
I believe in the power of generosity, and a lot of artists I've known and worked with and associated with are generous people. Um, I know that artists help artists more than anyone or anything else. Um, I've been
I
able to.
have learned that more than anything this year. I really have. Every single artist that has opened their studio doors for us, including you and Marjia, has been incredible generous with their knowledge and time and inspirations. And you are one of them. You are truly just so generous, like you said, with your time. And now that I'm, like I said, a student, you are incredibly, you know, just so patient with each one of us. And it's just breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
So, Mark,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, a phrase came to mind. There's a writer by the name of Annie Dillard. She's a wonderful writer. And I think of it because sometimes on the other end of that scale, sometimes certain artists can be very secretive and very kind of insular, if you will. And, you know, they're very sort of protective of all kinds of things, you know, trade secrets, if you will, and just whatever. But this passage by Annie Dillard has always stuck in my head. And she said that when we hoard our treasures, when we are, you know, selfish about our treasures and hoard them and put them in that treasure lockbox, if you will, that at the end, this is kind of powerful, that at the end of our lives, when we open up that box, we find ashes. And when I read that, I thought, whoa, that's pretty powerful. So
That's really
yeah,
powerful. Oh my goodness.
better, better to not have the lockbox that you can look in at the end of your life with the ashes.
Yes, no joke. So, Mark,
Right?
who is your inspiration? Who do you who do you look for in your own work?
It's a long, long list, Sandra, too long to recite here. I even tried with a good friend of mine to do a top 10 a while back ago and failed miserably because there's so many.
So still no top 10?
Well, I could throw out a few top artists. Cezanne was one of my first gods, if you will, heroes, art heroes. Morandi is another. A lot of the Renaissance painters, particularly the earlier ones, like Fra Angelico for one, Giotto. I look at those paintings over and over again, both in the flesh and in prints, and they're really contemporary. They're very powerful, not only in their stories and content, but the design and colors. There's very few contemporary pieces that can match up to those paintings. And then in more recent contemporary times, I would say Richard Diebenkorn has been a major influence on me. Sean Scully has been an influence. I'm probably Ellsworth Kelly for some of his sort of color notations and sort of notes. And like I said, there's just a very long list. The Guy Ben quilt makers, I look at their work, they're quite remarkable.
So if money wasn't an issue and you can buy, you know, one piece of artwork from a living artist.
Wow. No one's ever asked me this question. Money's no issue. I could buy one piece. It probably would be a Richard Diebenkorn painting, I have to say. He's right up there.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's
Okay.
probably because he's first, he's a brilliant draftsman and draws beautifully the figure, which I enjoy doing. I still draw the figure. But his way of thinking and how he talks about his work and his process and his sense of color and design is just superb. A few years ago, there was a big show here in the city, show of both Diebenkorn and Matisse, because he looked at Matisse a lot. And we went back a couple of times, Marjia and I, a very powerful show. So it'd be a toss-up between owning a Matisse and a Diebenkorn. Maybe if I could buy two, could I have two?
And what about someone who's alive today?
Someone alive today? That's a good question. Maybe a really good Sean Scully piece. Bryce Martin is another painter I really, really like. His sort of calligraphic pieces are quite lovely. Or maybe a Cy Twombly, maybe between those three.
Okay. All right, I love that.
Because it's hard to pick one.
And you have a full, incredible library that we might have a chance to just look at it from a distance. But if it's okay with you, I would love for you to take us on a gallery tour and a little bit of your studio. Let's just go ahead and take the phone now, if we can, and switch the camera around so we can see you walking around.
You want to do that? Or you want me to do that? Maria's going to be.
I'll be the camera prop here.
Hi, Marjia. She's going to join us in the next half hour, so I'm excited to bring her in.
Well, I think the first thing wall.
Oh, look at that studio space and that wall. We want that. We all want your wall. What do we do?
This the COVID wall, because this all took place during COVID. And more. Would it help if I turn on the lights, do you think, or no?
Yeah, that would be great. Maybe turn them on. It looks a little dark, so maybe it will help a little bit.
This helps a little bit.
Yeah, that works. Wow. Okay.
So I'm calling this the COVID wall, as I said, but here's what's interesting. If people go to my website, markeanes.com, and look at work of a few years ago and also the archives, you'll see a very different color palette, Sandra. It's subtler. It's not as vibrant with these saturated hues, these prismatic hues. But I think during COVID, I really wanted to celebrate color and get a little more adventurous with it. So
interesting that happened over COVID.
Yeah, it really, really did. And it wasn't even conscious. It just happened. It happened with a particular piece. In fact, I can show you. So this piece right here, if any of your listeners worked with Nick Wilton, the fellow who teaches CVP.
Yes.
I did a guest spot for Nick. And during that guest spot, this was a much older painting, looked nothing like it now. And I brought it out from the racks because it had been sitting there. And I started working on it for my guest spot, right? Well, I feel like my demo with Nick was personally a bit of a disaster.
I don't think so. I saw it because I'm a student of Nick as well. It was pretty good.
Well, I'm glad you think that, because for me it was, and I'll tell you why I think it was a bit of a disaster. I did my best in a 10-minute slot to make moves on the painting, right? Well, what happened for my money is that it went through what I call the ugly phase of a painting, which is never fun. And that's what happened. So I was making some very bold moves and, having fun and so on. But when I stepped back and looked at it after I left Nick's show, I looked at it and thought, this is really ugly. So I decided to keep working it, and this is what ended up happening, this particular painting, which is a celebration of color, if you will. I really like where this painting ended up. And
can you come closer, Marjia, so we can see the details on it?
So it took me a long, long time, but I really enjoyed, these big paintings take me forever, but I really enjoyed where I ended up with this painting, Sandra, and it was so colorful these yellows and reds and blues and greens. And I had not painted like this for a very long time, if ever, in terms of this much kind of intensity. And that's what this painting was, a turning point, I have to say. And from there, it took me to other paintings.
It's mixed media, right? All of your stuff is pretty much mixed media.
And if you can come in here, Maria, they can see some of the really subtle. If you can really come into the details here, you see I have a lot of old ephemera, letters like this, old photographs. I don't know if you can see this, or old prints here. So,
Wow, it almost looks like a fresco.
yeah, there's a lot of really, the paintings become about surface texture partly. They become about, subtle things. There's some architectural elements here. And
Columns, yeah.
I do a lot of sanding back and adding layers. So they kind of try to represent old walls that I'm attracted to and old surfaces in Europe that I've seen. And I try to show a lot of subtle layers within these surfaces. So that's of great interest to me.
The composition is so brilliant because it really, you have a rhythm, you have that horizontal line rhythm, but then you have the organic shapes in there that bring you in and out of the whole piece. So it really is so successful.
Well, thank you. Now, I don't know where you are in the language of design course, which we can discuss at some point, but I think it's in chapter 5 or so.
I'm not there.
Well, then you're in for an interesting surprise, because in chapter 5, we started talking about putting it all together, all the various aspects. And I do two things. I do a slideshow that shows process. So this is one of the paintings in the slideshow.
Oh, great.
Beginning to middle to end, all the different stages that some of these paintings go through. The other thing I do, I think it's in chapter 6, is I create a painting. I created this painting here specifically for the language of design. It's 4 by 4 feet. And Maria films it from beginning to end. And so you're able to see the various processes, including the ugly face.
Which we all have. I'm so glad that we can talk about this because you're human. And I think we talked about this yesterday, that, we all think that you don't make mistakes and you don't have those, those struggles. And that is so not true.
It's so not true. Remember, dare to fail, right? There's our t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. So, exactly.
So that's this wall. And I think it would be fun to show you the other wall from a distance, and then we can move in on that. So the wall you're seeing there.
Wow.
That wall.
Wow.
Is the language of design wall. So
to look at it from afar is like breathtaking. Really unbelievable, because when we see you teaching, we see you up close and personal on that wall. But from seeing it from far away, it just, it's so inspiring.
Thank you. I decided that in order to teach the language of design and do it successfully, I had to do a lot of reading, first of all. So there's about a month of just reading. So I knew how to get an outline of the course. But then I spent a good month or more turning the studio into what I call the laboratory. And it wasn't to make beautiful drawings or paintings. It was to create certain designs and exercises that I thought would be really useful in the language of design. So that wall represents much of what came out of this laboratory. And I encourage the artists to do the same thing, to treat their studio as a laboratory for exploration and experimentation, even to the point of failure, without thinking about, I'm making art today.
Right.
That's a hard sell. That's not an easy sell. Because people
but I think even from chapter 1, I felt that way with you. That to expand and to just go for it and put it up on a wall because you can see things differently.
Right. And I'm loving when I see artists talk with us on the live Q&A, and then behind them is this big wall with all these design sizes. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark, can you show us also your table behind you? Because I think that is fascinating.
So we talked about, Maria's going to show you a little bit of the mess. So
it's an organized chaos, I would call that.
Thank you. Exactly. Well said. These are trays after trays after trays of ephemera, bits and pieces, color swatches that I've generated over a long time. And this is all, stuff that I use in putting together artwork, both small and large. Now, yesterday, Sandra, if you recall, I mentioned to you that I wanted to talk just a few minutes about the usefulness and the importance and the joy of working small, because bigger is not always better.
Mm-hmm.
But working small has its own challenges. So I want to take a moment. I like working small periodically because it's a quieter time. It's not physical like when I'm working big. It's small, it's intimate. It's even more contemplative and even more meditative for me. All the moves are smaller, and it's just a very different headspace than working small. It's also easier to work through certain ideas when working small, but it has its own challenges. So I wanted to show you, for instance, yesterday I created a couple pieces. One piece actually only. I created this piece that we'll talk about later. I don't know if you're getting shine.
Well, we'll talk about it right now. You guys, this piece, Mark literally finished this piece yesterday, and he is incredibly generous because he is donating this piece for Feeding America. So if you're interested in buying this piece, original piece from Mark, we are asking $250 for it. 100% of the proceeds will go to Feeding America. That means 2,500 meals that we're asking for someone to buy this piece of artwork and in turn help our community at large that really needs our help. So if you're interested in purchasing this incredible piece of artwork, please DM me or Mark and we'll let you know how to proceed. So thank you, Mark, for doing that. I'm so glad you finished it.
You're welcome. And I wanted to address this. So when working small, things can go quickly and go well or not. So for instance, as a contrast, this particular piece went quickly and it went well. There were just a handful of decisions that I made and I pulled it off, you see. So it can happen pretty quickly when working small. On the other hand, this piece that I'm donating took me much, much longer, and there's a lot of moves underneath here, so a lot of, quote, mistakes, missteps, etc. And I can spend a long time on a small piece. In fact, all this chaos that you see was from creating 1 or 2 pieces. I mean, that's nuts.
That is nuts. We talked about this yesterday because Mark said, you got to come see this. So he showed me and how frustrating he was. And I'm like, oh my God. For me, every time I work small, I almost can't breathe. It's like this, I'm just so uptight when I work small. And I think that's where I need to pay attention. Why do I get so uptight? And why does it create this anxiety to work so small and to create something that is successful?
Well, it's not easy, and I'm showing you here how I might start a piece. So this is, there's my substrate underneath there, and I might just start a piece by making just a few moves. But I like to build as a stonemason and end as a jeweler. That's one of my phrases in the course. So
should we make a t-shirt?
Yeah, I like that one too. And start like that, and then I might find something else, like a little color notation that I had done out of a sketchbook. Got that, and I might go there. That might be my first move, you see, just to get things going. And then, you know, who knows? Then I have to look around for the next move, whether it works or not, and so on and so forth. So that's basically how a small
Mark, let
piece.
me ask you something. Once you start putting things down, do you paint on
Yeah.
top of it? Do you glue
Yeah.
things as you're going? How is the process? How does that work?
It's just one step at a time. Like this got painted on, this got painted, this was painted. So it's a mixture of both collage and painting. It just depends. And I might even take a test, like that's just a test piece of paper that I'm using to get a right color. See that?
Yes.
And
Yes.
for all I know, this could end up in a collage. And in fact, let me show you something over here.
And you
This
use
is
medium, right? You use just medium to put it
matte
all
medium.
together?
Yeah. So
Matte medium?
matte medium. So this is where I work on a larger scale. If you can see this big palette, can you see this palette?
Yes.
All right, so in front of the palette is paper, and when I'm testing a color that I'm mixing for a bigger painting, I lay it down here. You can see all these colors. This is me just testing various colors before I lay them down. Well, yesterday, for one of the small collages that I worked on, I came over here and I really liked what I saw. In fact, I want to use this at some point. And I just came over here and I cut that out and put it on a small collage, you see. So everything is possible. Nothing gets wasted. Richard Demoncorn, one of my favorite artists, as I mentioned, had a note near his door on the wall, and it said, "Waste not."
Right.
So,
exactly.
Waste.
So this is a great idea for you guys that use, paper palettes. Don't throw them away. You never know what you can get from that.
Anything's possible.
Anything is
So,
possible. Well, I think this
possible.
is a perfect time to bring Marjia in because she, like you said, she's not only your wife, but she's your partner in crime. And I would love for everyone that hasn't met Marjia to meet her. And so Marjia, if you can put
Great.
the phone back and you guys can reposition yourselves, that will be amazing. There we go. Yeah.
Yes. This stool, and I'll bring the other one.
Okay.
All right. So give us just a
Awesome.
second.
Yeah,
Turn around.
no problem. This is great. Hi, Marjia.
All right. Hi.
Thank you for helping us out today. You did a great job with the camera. My God.
Yeah, I'm the what do you call those rigs that you can buy, but I do my steady hand.
I know you were amazing. I thought you had that. What is it called? I can't even remember the one that just like whatever. You were amazing. So thank you.
I have it and I don't use it. I'm still so used to the hand.
Welcome, Marjia. Thank you so much for joining us. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, yeah, so hold on, let me get this right. I'm half Serbian, half Venezuelan, also Canadian, lived in Russia. So it's like I'm all over the place, and I've been here with Mark since 2015 when we got married. I studied art in Belgrade in Serbia, where I lived most of my life. So I'm a trained artist. It says on the paper that I'm an artist, but I'm not a practicing artist. I worked as a model for artists, and then I married Mark, and we live in an artistic community. So I'm very involved in a different way in art and art making and art life. But I switched to working with families, so I teach parenting classes to families with infants. And that's been my passion for the last 9 years or so. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I think I didn't know that. Maybe I did. I don't know. I don't remember that. But that sounds wonderful. Good for you.
Yeah. So I also teach in a way, but different subject matter. But I also teach yoga, and I enjoy really the connection between all of these things, like art making and the yoga practice, and even parenting. There is a lot of overlap. So for me, it's really interesting to sometimes explore those overlaps and talk to people and approach them through a different lens, which I think resonates with people.
Oh, I mean, it resonates with me so much. And I just want to thank you both for what you have done for this incredible artist community that you have created. You both put your brains together, and I think that's why this partnership is so successful, because you are so available, approachable. I think that your way of teaching and putting it out there for all of us is such a incredible way of understanding all the information that you're giving us, because it is a ton of information. But the good thing is, like you always said, you know, I'm behind, but you know, it's okay. Don't put pressure on having to do everything in time. You have this information forever, and we can always ask you questions. So can you walk us a little bit into now, what is the language of color and what is the language of design, and what made you think this is a perfect segue now to turn it into, you know, COVID obviously was a big factor for you to think, you know, this is our new venue, but now that it has been successful, would you continue in this way of teaching? And just talk a little bit about that. I know it's a big question, but if you can just take us step by step, that will be amazing.
Do you want to take a step at that?
No, you go ahead.
First, just to back up a little bit, Sandra, the genesis of me teaching color and design goes to my college. So years ago, the fine arts department that I worked with at the time asked me to teach a semester, 16 weeks of color and design. And I had to do a lot of research to be able to say yes to that. So I researched a lot of different books to help me, because I do work with texts that most professors do. And I found this text by a fellow named David Hornan. It's a text on color and design that I really liked. I'd studied a number of them. In fact, I even got in touch with David, and now we've become friends. We periodically Zoom. He's a marvelous man and a marvelous teacher on the East Coast. So I realized, okay, this is the text I'm going to use. And I started doing the exercises in his book, bringing to it what I already knew about color and design. And what I realized, and this is maybe 10 years ago, something like that, maybe less. What I realized was, even though I knew a lot about color and design, there was still so much more to know. And that opened my eyes to what's possible. So, you know, being the perennial student, having that mindset is useful. So I did teach a few semesters at the College of Color and Design. And then when it came time for us to discuss doing this privately, I said, okay, we can do this. I've got a fair amount of knowledge, but we need to separate them, because there's so much to learn about color. It would be crazy to try to...
I'm so glad you did.
Yeah. Crazy.
For my sake. I'm so glad you did.
So the language of color is very involved, very in-depth, very comprehensive. There's a lot of information there, including historical slideshows, as you well know. That's a big part of the course, is art history, because I feel that that's essential. When we completed that, it was very successful. A lot of people signed up, were very happy with it and happy with the way that we made ourselves available to them. And that's when Marjia said, well, what about language of design? So we did that. Now, I have to tell you, it was not easy. I'm going to be honest. We worked very hard at it. There were a lot of dead ends and blind spots and left turns that we had not accounted for. There was a lot of it was not easy. It was not an easy course to pull off. And
it's very challenging as it is, but now you have a whole different game ball, because now you're putting it online. So that's a whole different way of teaching too.
Yeah. So,
Can I
yeah,
jump in
jump
on
in,
that a little
please.
bit?
Yeah.
Because Mark thrives when he works with people. So for him to have that live audience, right, to be in front of people, and he feeds off that energy exchange. So I think that for him was challenged to, speak into the camera and not have that interaction, not have that feedback. That was for him as a teacher, I think the biggest challenge. And then the other thing was to translate into the online format, because when you don't have that feedback, you have to assume, what would be the questions? What would be the things that are not clear? How can I make this clear without really knowing and having that in-person feedback? So that was the challenge. And I think that's where kind of my role was to really, I always keep simplifying things. I love to simplify. I like to purge. I like to keep things very neat and organized and simple. So my brain was, I think, helpful there to kind of package Mark's thoughts that, are really so vast. He has so much information in his head that for him is difficult sometimes to pick and choose. Well, what is the most important thing? What is it that I can give people? Because he always feels like he's not giving enough. He always feels like there's so much more that I can present, that he's kind of robbing people of something. And I'm always trying to tell him, no, if you simple and just layer it nicely, you will give people more. And then they can take it on from there and continue their own exploration, which I think that's what Mark wants people to do. He wants to inspire people. He wants to just, he likes to say, infect people with that curiosity and courage to explore and investigate and just make the journey your own.
I
So
think
that
that
was
yeah, and I think that when we start this course, that you're in for, like, you will never see an artwork the same way as you saw it before taking this course. And I think that has so much weight if we think about it. You will never see the same painting, knowing that it has all these angles and the ABC of lines that you never really thought before, or you never gave yourself the chance to really analyze the pieces the way that I'm looking at it now. Maybe it's maturity, but I know that the elements that you're giving us and providing us by looking at things that we never had the opportunity to look at them that way is invaluable.
Yeah, and I've seen people on the Facebook group starting to analyze their own work. So not just other artists' work, but their own work, and having fun with it and discovering their own work, as you say, with different lenses. So I think that for Mark, that's the most rewarding thing. When people see things differently or see things for the first time, then I think for Mark as a teacher, that's the biggest compliment.
Yeah,
and I
that's
really
the biggest
like to
reward,
see
really.
Marjia doing the exercises. When you have Marjia doing them, we see her, her strokes, her hand, the way it moves, and it's just, each one is so different, and the end result will be different. But to have that example right there, right then, is so helpful.
Yeah, that was the idea behind that, was to break the fear a little bit for people, as someone who, well, has some background in art, but hasn't been practicing for decades. I don't want people to feel like it's only Mark and it's like, oh my God, can I ever do this like that? No, even if you are maybe not as good as Mark, you can still have fun and you can still go through challenges and you can still learn. So the idea behind it was just to provide different levels, let's say, of interpreting the exercise.
I think I cut you off, Mark. I think you wanted to say something.
Oh, just that I wanted to reiterate and agree with what Marjia said about I think the most gratifying responses that I get from fellow artists with the courses, both of them, is when I hear from them and they say, I'm starting to see things differently. I'm starting to look at things differently. One woman wrote when she was taking the language of color, she went on a bike ride with her husband, and she started noticing all the colors of green that are in the hills and the forest, and she realized, oh, these are chromatic grays, for instance. And she was taken, and she had to like slow down, and her husband said, you know, catch up, and she goes, I'm busy looking. Well, that to me, you know, it doesn't get much better than that, because that's what the artist, that's what our task is to observe and to pay attention and to slow down and to really look and to see. So many of us, myself included, can just be sleepwalking sometimes. And our job is to slow down and pay attention.
Yes, and I think we talked about, I just turned back the comments back on. So if people have questions, this would be a perfect time for you guys to ask questions. But I think we talked on our last Q&A that, you know, when you actually are in nature and you're walking and you're taking pictures, and you stop and you take pictures, and maybe your walk, you know, was going to be an hour. Well, now it's going to be 3 hours because you're just stopping and literally smelling the flowers. You know, you're just paying attention, and you want to just stay in the moment and look around and be present. And I think that is so important.
We just heard from one of our artists, Tira, about, she went to Yosemite recently, which is a magnificent park, took a hike up to one of the big waterfalls, which a lot of people do. It's a big hike. But instead of just rushing up to the waterfalls and taking a snapshot and coming back down, she took her time, and she was captivated by the rock formations on the way up. And people were looking at her kind of funny, she said, because she would be there looking at the rocks and taking pictures, and they all wanted to get up to the waterfall and get their snapshots and come back down.
Yeah, exactly.
Artists.
Yeah. Because you were saying about being mindful and slowing down and paying attention, that's one of the things that really overlaps, you know, for the yoga practice, the art making, and then parenting with infants. It's all about slowing down and being mindful and paying attention to what's going on in front of you. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And I did want to mention just one thing, which I think it's a question we get a lot, and sometimes people get confused. Both workshops, the language of color and the language of design, they're pre-recorded, and they are what people say on demand. So you can join anytime. It's not like we run it live and then that's it. There are no cycles. You can join at any moment. And once you sign up for the workshop, the material is yours indefinitely. So you can come back to it. You can, you know, redo the exercises which people are doing, and that's really great. And also, Mark and I are both always available for questions. So through the platform, there is a discussion section where people can ask questions, and you can maybe even find your question and the answer already there because someone already asked it before you. So it's a nice way to just learn from other people's questions.
Yeah,
We
for
also
sure.
Great Facebook groups that are vibrant, and people are getting inspired and commenting on each other's work and exchanging what they're doing. So I don't want people to think like, oh, I missed my chance. So, you know, I didn't sign up back in May or whatever. You can join anytime.
Yeah.
So there's one question by Kathy asking if there's going to be another, I guess she's probably both in the language of design and language of color, because she's like, great classes, both of them. Is there another one in the horizon, she hopes?
Well, we need to take a break, first of all, because they are very taxing, to be quite honest, both emotionally and physically and mentally. But we love doing them, but we really love when they're done. So we've talked about two potential other courses in the future, Sandra. One would be the language of abstraction for people who abstractly but don't really have an inroad to that, because I actually taught that course at the college, so I have a background in it.
You have your first students sign up.
Oh, beautiful. And the other course, because I've taught drawing from observation and still do for many, many years, would be the language of drawing. And that's when, to be honest, that would be my first pick, the language of drawing, because it's so essential, I believe, to painting.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the two courses that we've considered. And then I saw a question earlier. We will start resuming teaching in person here in the studio on 3-day color and design workshops, but we don't have any dates yet for that.
So stay tuned, and you can always go to the website and you'll find that information there. Annette, my good friend, she said language of color and language of design are both wonderful classes. Great exercise in an art history, all included, which is so unique because you do a lot of art history in your courses, which is all interconnected. And sometimes we don't have that necessarily. We have one or the other, but not in the way that you're teaching it, that it's just, you know, a beautiful merge of both.
I'm seeing a question here. Do these two courses need to be taken in sequence, color first and then design? It's a good question. Any thoughts on that?
I do have a thought. I think that the language of design will probably be, for me, my first pick. And then the language of color is basically an expansion of chapter 4 of the language of design, where we talk about color as one of the elements of composition. So I would, if I was to choose, I would say do the language of design first, and then we'll touch on color. And then if you do the language of color, that will just kind of open up that door big time. It's not, you know, but if I was personally to choose, I would do it that way.
Someone is asking if the course is like written and that they could buy the written course. I'm not sure what the question is, but I don't think so.
I'm from the oral tradition.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking she's from Chile. So yeah, you can buy the course and listen to it and immerse yourself in it. Which is the best way anyways. And then, you know, you can always make your notes. But, you know, I think that Mark and Marjia, everyone would love, you know, the drawing class and the abstraction class, including myself. And so keep us posted on that. And again, Mark, if you have the painting that we're donating today, I would love to show it one more time.
Sure.
If you can just go get it. And Mark, if you have any remarks to finish this beautiful interview.
Thank you. I want to let your artists out there know about our newsletter. That way they can be sort of in tuned to what we're up to. So
Annette wants to buy it.
Yes.
We have a
Yes.
Okay, Annette, I'm just going to let you know, because if I got DMs before, I just want to make sure that that we just, I'll let you know. Let's put it that way. But thank you, Annette, so much.
Yeah. So we decided that we didn't know if we were going to get a buyer for this one, and we thought, well, if we do, that's great, and we'd like to donate. I know we have very little time remaining, but we'd like to donate one more piece.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, that is beautiful. Okay. Oh my God, Annette, you're getting one for sure. And wow, I'm just speechless. Thank you so much.
We can send you an image of this. And
Annette, I think Annette wants this one.
Okay. And I will let you guys know if the other one is still available. Okay, I'm one of the students in Saudi Arabia, and I'm very happy to have joined the course. Can I send questions on Instagram?
You can, but you can DM them on Instagram. But the best way, so that we don't miss it, because we get a lot of, you know, messages on social media, is the platform. So through the platform directly, or an email. So mark.eanes.studio@gmail.com.
Okay.
And then just to remind people, if they go to my website, markeanes, EANES.com, there should be a link for joining our newsletter.
Yeah.
And we send out a monthly newsletter for the most part. We try to do it monthly. And that just lets people know what we're up to.
And it will be on my notes, you guys. So just everything will be there. And thank you. Unfortunately, we're out of time again. I can't believe this is happening all over again. But Marjia, send me a picture of that painting because I'm going to put it up. And Annette, thank you so much. And thank you both for being so just you, for being beautiful souls, and for infecting us with so much love and care. I adore you, and I can't thank you enough.
You're most welcome, and
You're
thank you
welcome.
for inviting us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye,
Bye-bye
Annette.
all.